Hello and welcome to another RealTime Fantasy Sports live stream event here on our YouTube channel. We're so excited to bring you another Fantasy Life Championship draft as we do here every Wednesday night. We've been away for a couple weeks, but we're back. Howard, Bender, and I are back to bring you another championship. And here is my good friend Howard, who is now in the great state of Alaska. Howard, good to see you, my friend.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I love being back here, no doubt about it. Apologies ahead of time for the echo. My stuff actually arrives tomorrow. So
there you
go. This
go.
time next week, Jeff, I'll have like my full office set up there.
Awesome stuff. So tonight, Howard, we're excited. We're bringing another draft, but we're also going to do a giveaway for a free entry into our Fantasy Championship Best Ball Championship. So it's going to be a free entry. And if you want to get into it, it's very easy. You just have to type something in the chat. If you don't put anything in the chat, you can say whatever you want. Hi, Jeff, you're my favorite commentator of all time. Whatever. Just put anything in the chat, but you have to type something in the chat to be qualified, and then we'll draw that a little later. But if you want to get in one of these Fantasy Life Championships, also go to RTSports.com/Bender or Paur, and we both have codes to get you, if you're a first-time depositor, to take advantage of a match on there. So for sure, you will want to do that and then get in a Fantasy Life Championship. This is going our sales are the best they've ever been for the Fantasy Life Championship at this point, Howard. It is selling quicker than ever. So if you want to get in, I suggest just signing up right now. You don't have to draft right now, but secure a spot. So you sign up, buy your team, and then you can pick your draft whenever you want to draft. But it's definitely been great this year for the Fantasy Life Championship, and we're excited to bring you another draft, which is actually going off fast and furious already, Howard. There's all sorts of stuff for us to talk about, too, throughout the stream with training camp open. We haven't really talked since training camp open, so, talk about position battles and guys getting hurt, but depth charts, all that fun stuff. So Howard and I will dive into that as well. And again, if you want to get entered into our giveaway, just type something in the chat and you can get entered for that free Best Ball Championship entry. And Howard, you have a Best Ball Championship as well, though, and that's actually selling crazy quick too. To tell everybody about that contest.
Yeah, the Beat Howard Bender Best Ball Championship, $10,000 grand prize, $20 entry. And I've been doing a bunch of them, right? I'm like, listen, I'm chasing the 10 grand like you guys are too. So I'm jumping into a whole mess of them every so often. I just have them like reload like 3 new slow drafts, 2 hour, 4 hour, 6 or 8 hour clock. And so I've been on the clock now for like a good month here over the course of it. So if you're new to RT Sports, go to rtsports.com/Bender. All right, because then you'll get a promo. You'll get an instant deposit match, 50% deposit match, up to $500. So that's a ridiculous lot of Best Ball Championship entries there. You could also use that to your advantage if you want to join in the TFC. And one of these drafts here, $300 entry, $850 gives you 3 entries in there. So if you match up to $500, you can get at least 1.5 of your entries well taken care of.
In this Fantasy Life Championship, $500,000 grand prize to the winner. Let's jump into this one, Howard, because it is going fast and furious here now at this point. So let's look at the board here, and it is Bijan, I guess is how he's pronounced it now. Bijan. Jamar Chase, Jahmyr Gibbs, CeeDee Lamb, Saquon Barkley, Justin Jefferson, Ashton Genty, Malik Neighbors, Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra, St. Brown. Again, pretty chalk stuff. One thing that I have noticed lately, I don't know if you have, Howard, I feel like McCaffrey's starting to creep up a little bit. He's getting a little more love I've seen in recent drafts. Have you seen that as well?
Yeah, I have. I mean, because it's really kind of funny when you're talking about like your top 5 or your top 5. That seems to be the way. Top 6 actually really is the way it's going. Once you get to like 7, 8, 9, now you start seeing who believes in McCaffrey, who drafts injury agnostic, and who drafts scared. How about that? No, I'm not just kidding.
No.
I mean, listen, yes, I've seen McCaffrey drafted. I've seen McCaffrey drafted as high as fifth overall, which I thought was, that's kind of pushing it a little bit. But
Yeah.
I have a bunch of shares of him. Just, I've got him at the tail end of the first round, early second round. I have no problem investing in that. You just know that you have to secure Isaac Guerrero at some point later on in your draft.
Yeah, for sure. And then we have Chase Brown, first pick in the second round. I think that's the highest I've seen him now. He's another guy I feel like kind of creeping up as well. I'm really quite high on him personally because I just don't like the competition behind him, and I like his situation in Cincinnati. Good offense. Their backs historically. Joe Mixon's been a guy that's found the end zone a lot when he was the number one back. And I think Chase Brown kind of fits that same category there. So I don't really have a problem with it, but I don't know if I can take him ahead of Derrick Henry, though. Can you do that?
Yeah, that's the tough one there is the Derrick Henry part. I also, because, I mean, yes, Henry gets the volume. Chase Brown gets volume. Like, that's the good thing. And that's, to the point that you were making about the Cincinnati running back. Zach Taylor likes using one guy. And Cincinnati in the last 2 years, right, they have been, I mean, it's more than just the last 2 years, but they've been basically in the bottom 5 of rushing attempts in the NFL, and yet their running backs, like Joe Mixon, was like in the top 10 of rushing attempts last year. Chase Brown was, he finished like 14th or 15th, but he was also sharing the work early with Zach Moss last season. So Zach Taylor likes to go with really with one guy, and he does, and he rolls with him if he can, if he sees that he can trust him. So I think Chase Brown definitely earned his trust last year.
Yeah, for sure. After Chase Brown, we have Nico Collins, Drake London, Devon A-Chain, then Derrick Henry. We don't have the A-Chain and Henry stack. I think it's a thing of the past now, Howard. We may not see it again. A-Chain seems to be falling more so than Howard, in my opinion, even though he went before Henry in this draft. I feel like if anything, A-Chain's usually going after Henry, but you can make a case either way.
Yeah, I mean, people love him. They really do. In all honesty, I feel like he's a little too much, too passing dependent and too Tua dependent. And if both those things aren't clicking immediately, then I do have some concern with him. He's much better. I'd much rather have like Henry, Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, even probably Bucky Irving over Achane in like a half-point PPR or a standard format for sure.
Yeah, I feel like Jacobs and Taylor are both two guys that don't get enough love. They're not very exciting, but I think they're just pure workhorse backs in their offense, and they're going to get a ton of touches, and they're kind of safe picks, in my opinion. I like getting either of those guys on my team. All right, it's going running back heavy. We have 5 straight running backs. 7 straight running backs, and we have 8 total for the round.
That's great. That's it. If I've noticed anything about the RTSports crowd, they are definitely running back friendly people. It's an old school crowd. Yeah,
for sure. I agree with that. I know Steve Gardner had a good question last night when I was on with him on Sirius XM. He was talking about the running back position. Do you think it's a good year to do 0 running back, because it seems like there's a lot of guys that, are in uncertain situations you can get later and just load up on them? Or do you think this is the smart play going running back early? You kind of probably know how I think, but I was kind of curious to your thoughts on that.
The funny thing is, again, I'm still a running back heavy guy. And to me, that's the way you're going to go in a lot of these drafts, because that's what, otherwise you're going to get left out in the cold with running backs. But I'll say this, if I go like Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, Puka Nacua, Drake London, Amon-Ra, Nico Collins, there are good, solid running backs that you could still get in rounds 3, 4, and 5 to kind of make up for it. I mean, I don't want to just name names here. Yeah. You guys are looking at your, who's left in your running back room. I mean, to sit there and hit running back twice now, I'd say I might look at that a little bit more at the tail end of the draft, where Joe Emmerich and Matt Richardson are. that they could they could just double tap that running back position real nicely here. This might be, if I'm looking at like boxing donkey, maybe, maybe now might be a time to even think about like that elite quarterback as opposed to trying to, squeeze in another running back. But there's still a couple of names there that I like.
So I wanted to talk about Ladd McConkey with the signing of Keenan Allen. What do you think that does to him, if anything? Does that concern you at all, the Keenan Allen signing for McConkey?
No, actually, it's kind of funny. I think that what we're looking at here is, I think it's fine for McConkey. I think his value remains unchanged. I'm not going to, I think he's going too high where he's going in drafts right now, but I still, I'm not going to say that he's not going to earn at least even money value where he is. Keenan Allen plays a very similar role, right? They both thrive in the slot. They're both good with, yards after the catch. They're kind of cut from that same exact mold. And you were like, oh, well, Keenan Allen was the security blanket, and now Herbert's going to go back to him. No, Herbert knows. Herbert's got the rapport with Ladd McConkey. So I think that maintains. I think the people who get hurt the most here, I think it's garbage for the tight ends. Tyler Conklin, Oronde Gadsden the second. I was hoping that one of those two guys, might step up and pop a little bit, especially with all the two tight end sets that Greg Roman likes to run. But I think the real damage here is going to be to Trey Harris and to Quentin Johnston, because if you are running a two tight end set, then that means only two wide receivers are on the field. So you're going to go with McConkey, and more than likely you're going to go with Keenan Allen, or at best you're going to share that second spot amongst the three, depending on where you are on the field and what kind of play calling you're doing. But so I think it eats into the snap share of Trey Harris and Quentin Johnston, and it just kind of devalues the tight end. Doesn't do anything bad to McConkey to have somebody else like that drawing coverage away.
I share your thoughts exactly. It worries me more so for Trey Harris and Quentin Johnston and the tight ends as well. I think they're going to be hurt more so by it, because I think McConkey showed that clear rapport with Herbert last year, and I just don't know how much Allen has left in the tank personally as well. It's getting up there, has a lot of football under his belt, so that kind of concerns me a little bit. We do have a question, Howard. Brent was asking about using different strategies if someone is doing multiple FLCs. Like he says, I tend to build running back receiver teams. I don't have any early top 5 quarterback teams yet. Would you recommend, differentiating your strategies if you're in multiple FLC contests? Good question.
Yeah, I would, and I have. I've done it in the Beat Bender Best Ball tournament there. I have shares of drafts. I have drafts where I went with the heavy QB early, the Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, those guys. Like, I've done several drafts with them as my QB. Then I've also done a mixture of drafts where then I'll target Bo Nix and Kyler Murray in that range and go running back, wide receiver heavy. I've even waited on QB till that lower end to go to like the Dak Prescotts or, any of the non-mobile guys, or even like a Drake May, who is a mobile guy. Mm-hmm. I've done different, especially if you're doing multiple, if you're doing let's say you're doing 6, right? And 3 of them, you want to go RB heavy, maybe 2 of them, you want to, dive in and get that early quarterback just to kind of keep yourself invested in the players who are expected to score the most points, right? Quarterbacks always score the most points. The elite quarterbacks who are also runners are going to also, they're going to, advance you on the points. So I always like mixing up a couple of different teams like that for sure.
Yeah, and if you're not in multiple FLCs and you want to, test different strategies, I would recommend even getting in, several of these different best ball contests at a lower price point. You can get in Howard's for a chance to win $10,000, but test different strategies. I do that every week. I'm in a slow best ball draft, and I do it and play around with what turns out the best for me. If I want to go receiver heavy earlier, if I want to load up on running backs, if I want to take a top 5 QB, and then just see how it plays out. And then you can also see where these guys are going and, get an idea of your targets and where you can get them as well. But I just suggest, doing it with a little skin in the game. I think it helps you build a good foundation for your fantasy season just by doing some of these other drafts as well. And you can do that. Go to rtsports.com and then click on that Money League link. You can see everything we have to offer on there. And again, if you want to get in our giveaway, just type something in the chat, anything at all. You can put test, whatever, one. And there's several of you in here, and not everybody's typed anything in there. So if you want a chance to win a Best Ball Championship entry, just type something in the chat, and we will draw that in a little bit here, maybe 20 minutes or so. So, Howard, we see a couple QBs go this round, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. But one pick, again, another Charger goes, Marion Hampton. He's just shooting up draft boards right now. So he goes with the second pick in the third round. Harris we don't know what's going on with Harris, Najee Harris, and Hampton just making a lot of ways here in the fantasy community. I feel like he's really moving up. I think he got some love by one of the biggest experts out there as well. So I'm sure that's going to affect his ADP also. But Amarion Hampton shooting up boards. Are you buying into that?
I mean, you almost kind of have to, right? I mean, what is Najee Harris? He's turned into the pirate now, right? We don't know what's going on with his. Last I heard, they wrapped him up in a weighted blanket and made him walk laps. That's what he was. That's what he was doing.
Not
on
a good
sign. That's definitely not a good sign, right? It's like, get off your fat ass and here's a weighted blanket to make your anxiety feel a little better. No, whatever, just to kind of keep him in shape and doing that. Because there's not a whole lot else that's there that's imaginable, right? Kamani Vidal, So I look at this and say this really could be Amari and Hampton's backfield, at least for the most part. I'm sure Najee will come back and they'll weave him in, but yeah, this is definitely. I mean, this is the earliest I've seen Hampton go. Mm-hmm. I think early third. And I guess I don't really hate it. I like seeing Brock Bowers fall to the third round. That made me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. I feel like Hampton, I've seen him end of the third in a couple of recent drafts, but not the beginning like this. This is definitely the earliest I've seen him go. And then Kenneth Walker goes right after him. I know you're very high on Walker for this year, but he's already battling an injury. Are you having any?
Oh, he came back to practice, Jeffrey.
All right. It still worries me.
Somebody else did that to me the other day too. I was talking about about drafting Kenneth Walker, and somebody was like, he's already hurt. I was like, shut up, he's back at practice. Shout out to Buddha's bag here. What a trio of running backs to start with, huh? Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker. Yum.
Breece Hall, his situation, talking about, weaving Braylon Allen in there a little bit as well. I still think Hall has a huge ceiling because he can catch a ball so well, but maybe Allen will help him, stay fresh also. Any concerns at all with kind of maybe being that a little more of a timeshare this year?
No, not really. I mean, I went over this. I shot a video on this. It's on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube page. Where you can check it out. My general feeling is like, this is Breece Hall's backfield. I'm not going to sit there and worry about what we saw last year because Aaron Rodgers is a selfish SOB and he keeps the ball himself, right? You saw a decline in touches for Breece Hall and whatever. He's also another full year removed from the knee injury. And he did mention that last year there were some times where he was hesitant or whatever, that, it was nerve-wracking. 2 years ago, we saw him, targeted 95 times, caught 75 passes for almost 600 yards and 4 touchdowns. So, you can get, active in the passing game. Maybe they splash in a little Braylon Allen just so that they can, see what's what, keep him involved in the offense, because this is also a walk year for Breece Hall. So he's either going to show the Jets that they need to pay him, or he's going to show the Jets that somebody else is ready to pay him big time money for his effort. I think this is because again, the Jets, how many times do we see a team run a running back into the ground because they're like, oh, we're not going to sign him next year anyway. He's going to be too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So, you kind of worry about that aspect there. So maybe they just keep running Breece Hall out there over and over again. I think he's got something to prove, and I think the team is going to let him do it.
So another question for you with maybe you can talk some people off the cliff with RJ Harvey. So you saw the depth chart came out where he's fifth or whatever. But then you also saw a few days ago how they were talking about using him in that joker position that everybody loves in that offense, even maybe over Evan Ingram. So I see that depth chart out and I just kind of smile at it. I'm not really buying it. Are you the same way?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's gamesmanship from
Yeah.
Sean Payton. He does that all the time. He puts his rookies at the bottom end of the depth chart and says, if you want to be at the top of the depth chart, you have to earn that spot at the top of the depth chart. Just because we use some strong draft capital on you, it doesn't mean anything. So, yeah, I'm okay with it. Listen, I get it. His biggest problem issue right now is his pass blocking. So they've said that, J.K. Dobbins is likely to start off as the RB1 until RJ Harvey fixes his pass blocking. And guess what? He's got a full month to do it. So I'm staying way bullish on Harvey. I think he's going to be just fine.
Now the guy went right after him, Travion Henderson. I'm kind of been more encouraged by him after camp opens because you just talked about it, the pass blocking. They're saying great things about him and his pass protection in camp. Which obviously is a huge factor in that Patriots offense, since he is likely going to compete for that pass back catching job. So Travion Henderson, I'm kind of intrigued by him a little bit now going forward, even more so than I was before. Is any of the recent news on him done anything to you, Howard?
I mean, it's kind of just instilled more of what they're thinking about for the offense. Josh McDaniels said, he had two different playbooks. He had a playbook for Tom Brady and he had a playbook for the Patriots with Cam Newton. He wants to take the best of both and kind of meet halfway in the middle with Drake May, because Drake May is a mobile QB. They're lining up Travion Henderson everywhere. They're lining him up in the slot. They line him up outside. They're very adamant about, getting that, that James, for lack of a way to compare it or whatever, they want the next James White. Robert Kraft said to Mike Vrabel, he said, do you remember how great it was when we were winning? What did we have that was helping us win so much? Oh, James White, that pass catching running back. And that's kind of what they're doing here with Travion Henderson. And again, especially in a PPR format, I'm 100% here for it.
Yeah, for sure. We do have a question in the chat from Jan Bolton. What is your thoughts on taking two QBs in a one quarterback redraft?
It depends on what everybody else is doing, right? Like, I mean, I just did a draft where I had, Jalen Hurts as my top QB. And I didn't see, come the end of the draft, you still had guys like Sam Darnold and, Geno Smith. They were all still sitting on the waiver wire, right? They went undrafted. So you have to watch what the rest of your room is doing. If you get one of those elite guys and people are taking, their second QBs, a lot of teams are taking a second QB. If you want to just make sure you're covered, then yeah, take a second QB. But I wouldn't take anybody you have to understand that you're drafting this person strictly as insurance. So you don't want to overinvest in a second QB because you're just going to sit there and just waste points, leaving them on the bench. And then it's going to piss you off because you're like, oh man, he actually outscored my starter. You wait and you take a guy like a Sam Darnold or a Geno Smith super late. You take a shot on one of those guys if you grab the elite. Now, if you grab like mid-tier QB, then yeah, you know what? Then regardless of what the field is doing, I'll take a second QB. We call it the yin yang draft strategy. You grab like a high upside type guy who's got, maybe some mobility, like a Justin Fields or a Drake May. Like these guys, like legitimately, if they can add 40 to 50 rushing yards and maybe poach a touchdown here and there, then that's great upside. But then you want to kind of balance it out and grab like a Dak Prescott or a Jordan Love or somebody like that who, pure pocket passer. You're not really worried, they're not running the football, but they do have the potential of just kind of settling in the pocket. They've got a good high floor. So if I'm waiting on QB and I'm like landing in that range, if I draft Dak Prescott as my starting QB, I might, take a shot later on and spend a little bit of draft capital on a second QB just to have somebody who has some like rushing upside.
I agree. I think you brought up several great points. You got to read the room, know your fellow drafters as well to see what they like to do. So if they're all taking 2 QBs and it's the options are not great at the end of your draft, I think that you might want to think about taking a second QB earlier if you know that's going to happen. But if you're using high draft capital, if you want to get one of these top 5 QBs, I have no problem at all not taking a second QB. I mean, because quite frankly, if you're using a 3rd round pick on Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, you're probably not going to take another QB until extremely late. And I just think that you can probably get away with not taking one at that point, because if Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen got hurt for you, God forbid, your team's probably in a lot of trouble. All right. How do you feel about having Lamb and Pickens on your team? Someone wrote that. I don't know. Do they think you're a Cowboys fan?
No, I mean, if you're stacking Cowboys, you've got Dak Prescott, if you draft CeeDee Lamb first, you got to take CeeDee Lamb. Like we're looking at this draft here. You could take CeeDee Lamb here, and then maybe here in round 5, or 6, you look at like a George Pickens, then yeah, you know what? Then I wouldn't hate drafting Dak Prescott there and just doing the full stack. And see what happens. Because I do think, I mean, their ground game is garbage, right? It's terrible. I get that Jaden Blue is, he's running with the ones now, and they're showing some life there. But still, that's a terrible run game. I don't even know how I feel about the offensive line. Now that one of the Tylers is hurt and they lost another guy, they had to sign Lael Collins. So I think the passing game for Dallas is really nice. And, if it means starting both Dallas Cowboys wide receivers, I don't hate it. I think that both can eat regularly.
I feel like I've done a couple drafts recently where I've taken Lamb in the 1st round. And when I do that, I'm going to wait and get Prescott in that 9th, 10th round, which I think is just tremendous value, and then get another QB kind of close to that as well. So that's one of my favorite strategies if I'm going Lamb early. I really, really love that stack. Let's reset this board a little bit. We haven't talked about it here in a bit. So round 3 went Alvin Kamara, Omarion Hampton, Kenneth Walker, Tyreek Hill, Brock Bowers, Garrett Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Chuba Hubbard, Josh Allen, Jackson Smith-Njigba, James Cook, Trey McBride. And then the 4th round went T. Higgins, R.J. Harvey, Travion Henderson, Devontae Adams, Marvin Harrison, Cortland Sutton, George Kittle, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Jaden Daniels, DK Metcalf, and James Conner. I mean, there's nothing too out of the ordinary there. Any picks stand out for you, Howard, those last 2 rounds? Any pick you really like? You think somebody did a great job in grabbing somebody or, adding them to their roster to fortify it even more?
I think that this is it's a nice group here. It really is. And I've been watching what Buddha's Bag is doing. And I would have said the Jaden Daniels pick was a little weird because you got 3 running backs, right? And do you want to get a wide receivers? But he ends up going quarterback with Jaden Daniels, and then boom, they let him take Terry McLaurin there. I mean, to me, that's a nice build, because you don't have to go stacking. I think everybody. Stacking can be a good strategy in a large field tournament for best ball. Right? Because you're investing in a high octane offense. But when you're doing season long, I don't want to have stacks. Like, I don't mind a pairing as long as it's the top guy, right? Quarterback and top wide receiver, quarterback and top tight end. Maybe that's the case, but it's never going to be like quarterback and running back, and it's never going to be running back and a wide receiver. It just, I don't want to stay so heavily invested in one offense each week, because we've seen a team, good teams just put up stinkers of games, and then that just ruins your fantasy week because your quarterback and your 2 wide receivers didn't do anything that week. They got shut down. So yeah, that's a bit worrisome. But I like doing the just taking the one quarterback and his top target and launching those guys in there.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about training camp and the way you look at it. So you're seeing some reports out there with Caleb Williams being really up and down. Justin Fields struggled recently. I mean, how much do you really look into, these guys are in training camp playing against their own defenses. What's your thoughts on how to evaluate all that noise you're hearing?
It's tough because you know that Caleb Williams is a young QB and now he's learning another playbook, right? I mean, he just this is his third playbook in 3 years, right? Between college last season and this season, that's your third playbook that you're learning right now. So it's I would expect there are going to be growing pains. I'm sure that he wasn't using any kind of an Earhart Perkins system in college. So now all of a sudden he's like learning the verbiage, and the verbiage is completely different. In an Earhart Perkins system, the verbiage is all abbreviated, right? Like Circus Kings or whatever. Like those are the words that they use are like code words for certain aspects of plays, and so it's like 2 words, maybe 3 at the most. And so then you have to know like everything that goes involved if you're putting these 2 words together even. So, you have to, it's going to be tough. And, Justin Fields, just a journeyman at this point, right? I mean, so he's learning a new playbook almost, on the regular as well. So, I think that you can expect growing pains, especially if you're talking about an offense that is relatively complex. You think it's kind of funny, right? Ben Johnson, with his offense and Tanner Engstrand with his offense. Both guys are from Detroit. We know that, the system that Ben Johnson put in there. And so like those are the teams, the new teams who are trying to learn everything are struggling. They're not humming offenses like, we've seen Detroit because those guys have been together for so long. So I expect some growing pains, but I'll tell you what, I'm not going to let it deter me too much in fantasy, simply because they still have a month to do it, right? And that's a month is a long time. And I don't think that any of these guys are stupid that they're not going to be able to get it.
I'm more concerned in training camp, just seeing who people are playing with. They're playing the first team offense, if they're, playing with the second, third stringers or whatever. I'm not as concerned about performance as I am who they're running with, and at this point of the game. I think we'll know more as the season gets closer, but that's kind of the things I'm looking at this point. And Howard, the viewers have spoken, and they want to know, how's Alaska for you, Howard? If people don't know, Howard made the move to Alaska here in the last 2 weeks, a couple weeks.
Yeah. I've been here for a full week now.
All right. We have 2 people asking, how is it? So you can give a brief recap here. How's your Alaska experience so far? I was asking you about it for the show.
It's been phenomenal. I absolutely love it here. Like I'm in Juneau. I live in like the Mendenhall Valley. So I drive 6 minutes that direction. I can hit like a Costco or a Home Depot or a Safeway. And then I drive 6 minutes in the other direction. And there I am in Mendenhall Glacier Park. So
wow.
Scenically, it's gorgeous. The people are super cool. Everybody, has been extremely welcoming with one exception. And that was Porcupine Pete, who got chased down by 2 of my dogs who have already now. Shout out to Dr. Chernova, who she rescued my babies. One of them had Jabu had like a whole bunch of porcupine needles in his nose. Tweezer, she got it all in her jawline, in her mouth, everything. She was like, so that was my welcome to Alaska moment. Was that my dogs got zapped by a porcupine.
Wow, that's crazy. It's good to hear things are going well, though. Is the Mendenhall Valley named after Richard Mendenhall?
Of course it is. Why wouldn't you name it after Richard Mendenhall?
I didn't know he was an Alaska native.
The great Steelers, he's not. They thought somebody here in Alaska who was naming a glacier was like, dude, I had this guy on my fantasy team, Richard Mendenhall. I'm totally doing this now.
And then ironically, Caleb Johnson just went 2 picks ago. So all the Pittsburgh backs we're talking about here.
Dude, that's another guy who's getting railed for his pass protection.
He is. Yeah. So my feeling about the 2 backs is like the Warren situation. I think I'd much rather have shares of him just because what you talked about earlier with Rodgers is selfish. He's going to throw the ball nonstop. He's going to audible out of those plays. He's going to want the best pass protector back in there as well. So I just feel like Warren is going to get more playing time. So I'm kind of leaning that way if I have to pick those 2 backs.
Yeah, I'm kind of, I'm in that point too. I mean, remember, there's like footage showing Aaron Rodgers shoving AJ Dillon out of the huddle to get Aaron Jones back on the field because A, Aaron Jones is a better pass catcher, and B, he was a better pass protector than AJ Dillon. So if if your pass protection's not up to snuff, Aaron Rodgers is going to kick you off of that offense. You don't have to worry about Arthur Smith doing it.
That's true. So the 5th round goes Tet McMillan, Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin, Rashee Rice, Jamison Williams, DeAndre Swift, Xavier Worthy, Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, Joe Burrow, George Pickens, Isaiah Pacheco. I wanted to ask you about Rashee Rice. So everybody's moving him down. It's still not certain what his suspension is going to be at this point. I mean, I feel like that's great value. If he ends up only missing a couple games, you get that guy in the 5th round. I'll take that.
I'll tell you what my concern is. My concern is they gave Jordan Addison 3 games for his DUI arrest.
Yeah, and this seems worse. You're right.
Right. Yeah, Rashee Rice, I mean, getting sentenced to 30 days in jail as well as, the 5 years probation. I almost feel like if you're going to give Jordan Addison 3, you're going to look to give Rashee Rice like 6. And then possibly even, you might be able to plead it down to 4 or 5. But I mean, I think he misses more time than Jordan Addison does. So I mean, it's tough. I mean, you believe him to be the go-to guy for Patrick Mahomes when he's on the field, and you're psyched about that. Yeah, I think we saw him climb as high as the late second round, and now he's chilling out down here in the 5th. I think people are nervous, and rightfully so.
Yeah. So Xavier Worthy just goes a few picks after him. I have my concerns about him. I just don't see him as a huge volume guy in this offense with the way the Chiefs have run things offensively through the years. They don't really usually have that, high volume receiver. I know Tyreek Hill racked up some catches, but it's still, I feel like Rice is the more big play option. So I feel like he has a better ceiling, and I don't know if I trust Worthy. I have some reservations about him, especially going that high.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of depends. I mean, if you think that Worthy is that guy who he was at the tail end of the season, right, when they were like, oh, we finally get to use, Xavier Worthy the way we wanted to. And he was like that short A-dot, pick up yards after the catch kind of guy, throw it 2 yards and expect his speed to take it through. I mean, we do, see him occasionally spread the field and go down there. I know they want to push downfield a little bit more, but yeah, I kind of feel like, I mean, we're going to have to see, right? I mean, because if there's a suspension for Rice and Marquise Hollywood Brown is already banged up, I mean, you might have to just go with Worthy just based on sheer volume, like him and welcome back Travis Kelce.
Yeah, that's fair. I can see that. So then the next round 6, we have Caleb Johnson, Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, Jalen Waddle, David Montgomery, Joe Mixon, Jalen Warren, Travis Hunter, Tyron Tracy, and Travis Kelce, who you just were talking about. I mean, I feel like this is the section here of the draft with these running backs who all have some sort of question mark. So if you look at this group here that just went, any stand out for you more than others? You feel more comfortable with drafting? I'm starting to feel better about Tracy a little bit after Scatterboo got hurt. And then you heard the report about from the one beat writer saying he's the clear number 1 as well. So that's kind of encouraging to me. I like the way he looked at the end of last season. But out of that group there's just a lot of guys with question marks. Is there any of those backs you feel better about than any other?
I mean, yeah, like everything that you just said about Tyrone Tracy makes me feel better about grabbing him. Cam Scadaboo being hurt. Jalen Warren, we just talked about. I think we're in a good spot there. Mixon, I've seen Mixon drop down to like the 8th round. I think the 6th might be a little bit too forgiving for the fact that he is he's going to miss all of training camp, and there's still no guarantee that he doesn't start the season on the PUP list. So I do worry about, that right there. So Tracy, I feel comfortable with. David Montgomery, I feel comfortable with as well. Tony Pollard, what do you think of that situation? Brian Callahan talking about the fact that he wants a 50-50 split between Pollard and Tajay Spears. Yet those two ADPs are like,
yeah, you're right. It's I feel like I have a ton of shares of Spears in my early drafts just because you keep hearing that, and I feel like Pollard has more concerns in that area where those other backs are going. So I have very few shares of Pollard and a lot of Spears. I wonder as we get closer to the season if that ends up changing a little bit, the ADP there. That's a great point, Howard. So some interesting builds here. So that first team, the Jahemsta team, he has all running backs and receivers, has not taken a tight end or QB yet. And we have the Spartans team the exact same way. And so is the Ragtag Mafia team as well. So we got some teams really leaning in on, receiver running back here. Any of those three teams you like better than the other? I mean, the Ragtag team, he really went heavy at receiver there with Lamb, Hill, Evans, Rice, and then he has Kyron Williams and Tyrone Tracy we were just talking about. That's a pretty good group of receivers there, especially when Rice gets back.
Yeah, I think he's got the edge for me over Jahemsta 5 there at the front because I like Bijan, I like Ladd McConkey, I can even get into Alvin Kamara and James Conner, but then you kind of run into some question marks there. Like I like Tet McMillan. Right. I like Tet, and I think that, the chance of a 25% target share is fantastic for him. Mm-hmm. But the problem is I don't want him as my wide receiver 2. I mean, I'll take him as my wide receiver 3, right? And then, if you want to say that Chris Olave is the wide receiver 2, that dude, again, I've said it, man, he's like one hospital ball away from calling it a career. So I don't know if I can invest there. I worry about the back end, of those picks, a little too upside-ish for me with like a little bit of risk. I would have much rather have taken Terry McLaurin or Jameson Williams ahead of Tet McMillan at that spot. And then as far as Arroyo, you saw Diggs come off here in the 7th, Olave, I mean, a little foreshadowing for some
tight end on the brain. He's got tight end on the brain all the time.
But I would have taken Stephon Diggs over Chris Olave. And Diggs he's recovering from a knee issue.
I was just going to ask you about Diggs. What do you like? I feel like at this point, 7th, 8th round, I'm starting to become a little more intrigued by him in that offense. And he looks pretty healthy already. I know he had some weird stuff going on in the offseason, but he's going to be that number one guy when he's on the field. He's kind of starting to intrigue me a little bit more.
I'm very intrigued. I mean, a month ago we were getting him in the 10th round.
Yeah.
Right. So this is like he's starting to move up a little earlier and earlier. He is the number one guy. He's the number one guy, and all reports kind of point him towards him playing in week 1. And with the way that this offense is structured, Stephon Diggs is going to see mad targets as the X receiver, in this scheme. So I love him, man. I think he's doing a great job. Again, Buddha's bag. I think that this is this right now here, I'm going to mark it as my favorite team right here. And this is a team who invested in an early QB and an early, tight end, a relatively early tight end, yet still got 2 number 1s as the top 2 receivers.
Yeah, impressive build for him for sure. Those running backs are best trio out of any of these teams for sure. So kudos to Buddha's bag there. And then he got the guy Jaden Daniels there as well. So we're going to do this giveaway in a minute here. Again, if you have not typed anything in the chat, please go do it now. So go just type anything you want. And then I'm going to do the giveaway, and you can we'll let everybody know who won. So type something in the chat for a chance to win an entry into the Best Ball Championship here at RealTime Fantasy Sports. And if you want to get in any of these contests, go to rtsports.com/Bender. Take advantage of his deposit match through if you're a first-time user. Definitely something that I would do if you have not done it before. So let's do this. All right, we got 10 entries in there. I'm gonna screen share this so everybody can see it and they don't think any shenanigans are going on. Right, share this tab. Here we go. All right. Everybody ready?
If I win, I'm going to give it away.
There you go. Oh, what happened?
I don't know, but Joe Lafferty is pretty psyched. I don't even know if I saw Joe say anything in the chat.
He won.
How did he win? Where's Joe? Oh, there's Joe Lafferty. Yeah, he said it right up there. Najee has to come back soon to be a big factor. If Hampton keeps impressing like he has been in camp, Najee is going to be playing true second fiddle. Amen, Joe Lafferty, and congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations to Joe. My browser is glitching on me here, Howard.
I was going to say, where'd you go, Jeff?
Am I gone?
Well, you're just a green cube right now.
Oh, boy. That's the worst. I might have to. I don't know what to do here. Can you take over?
Remove yourself and add yourself back in?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Try that. I'll stick around.
All right. As long as you're in, I think it should be okay.
All right. What's it going to be? Oh, hey, what's up, everybody? All right. So as this draft continues here and Jeff kind of works out the kinks here and there, I'll continue to talk about this seventh round. J.K. Dobbins, Brian Robinson, Stephon Diggs, we talked about him. Jerry Jeudy, Travis Etienne, Zay Flowers, Khalil Shakir, T.J. Hawkinson, Deebo Samuel, Rome Odunze, Ricky Pearsall. You know, I had some good stuff talking about Rome Odunze today. Now, again, like Jeff and I were talking about, there are some growing pains there in Chicago. But the question is like, what are we expecting from a guy like Rome Odunze? Like, you know, and to me, I was like, all right, well, we saw what he did in college, and maybe based off of what we saw in college, maybe that was like set our expectations a little too high. He was the central figure in, oh, hey, Jeff.
Hey, I'm back. I don't know what the heck happened.
I don't know. We were just talking about Rome Odunze.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, he's getting a lot of love. I still worry about all the mouths to feed in that offense.
Well, I mean, here's the question I have. Do you need me to share the draft board now, or do you got that?
I got it.
Okay. Oh, there we go. The thing I was wondering if maybe our expectations of Rome Odunze were too high based on where he landed in the NFL. Obviously, you know, last year the Bears QB. You know, what was the Bears QB situation? Was it Justin Fields?
Yeah.
Was it Kyle Orton? I can't even remember. It was so bad, right? Rome Odunze came from Washington. Ryan Grubb was his head coach. And Grubb's offense, what that does is it takes one wide receiver and really focuses heavily on the one wide receiver. And the other guys run a lot of misdirection to draw coverage away. Now, the other fringe guys, they'll get their share of targets, and we've seen things. It's a high-volume passing offense that can legitimately support the value, fantasy value, really, of multiple wide receivers. So, you know, that was the system that he was in college, and he was the featured aspect of it. If you want to equate it to the NFL, look at what happened last year with Seattle. First 3 weeks, it was all DK Metcalf, right? I mean, he was just balling out. Then he got hurt. And then it went to the work went to Jackson Smith-Njigba, and he became the focal point, and the other guys were all the fringe misdirection kind of ways. And now you look at, you know, even when DK Metcalf came back, yeah, he had his moments, but overall it was still Jackson Smith-Njigba was the main guy. So Rome Odunze went from being the main guy his final year in college to being part of the supporting cast behind DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. And now he's back to being the number 2 guy. He'll still be behind DJ Moore, but he's going to be the guy who's going to be taking all those snaps offensively now. So I'm expecting a step forward here for Rome Odunze, right? Let DJ Moore handle that Amon-Ra St. Brown role, and let Rome Odunze stretch the field a little bit more, play that Jamison Williams role.
Yeah, I agree. I think the offense suits multiple weapons. We saw what happened in Detroit with that. Sam Laporta, Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I definitely think there's opportunity there for Odunze to take a big step forward this year. So I'm not too scared of that situation as well. Jordan Mason just went. That's another guy, Howard. He's shooting up draft boards, 8th round in this draft. Talking about a pretty much a timeshare is what the coach is saying. Are you buying into the Mason hype?
I mean, considering Aaron Jones's frailty, considering that this is a pass first offense, yeah, I feel like if you're going to want to keep Aaron Jones healthy, then you're going to have to increase the workload for Jordan Mason. He already showed it when he was with San Francisco that he can handle a full-time role, that he can be an every down back. Now, they didn't really pass much to Jordan Mason, and maybe that's kind of what we're looking at here, is that Mason becomes that early down guy, and Aaron Jones kind of pivots to being the third down pass catching running back. I could see that happening there. So yeah, I expect Jordan Mason to continue, doing more. I've got a break in here. All my animals suddenly broke into my office here. I gotta fix that door.
Watch out for those porcupines.
Oh my Lord, dude. That was the worst.
Was
the worst.
Yeah, so for me, Aaron Jones goes in the 6th round and Mason in the 8th. I think I'd rather just take a chance on Mason at this point than Jones. I just think Jones is the player more on the decline and Mason's on the incline. So I just very few shares of Aaron Jones at this stage of his career. I didn't have many of him last year, and he kind of proved me wrong. But I don't think I want him on my team this year. I hate to say it.
But the disparity in taking the value, it's very, very similar to like looking at Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears.
It's true.
Why am I going to invest in Tony Pollard in a 50% timeshare when 50 picks later I can get Tajay Spears? So I'm with you there. Why take Aaron Jones if you know that, Jordan Mason? But, with Jordan Mason's ADP hopping up, that's going to make it a little bit more confusing for some people. I almost feel like it's like the ideal, like I'm on the wheel and I'm just going to double tap the Minnesota full, backfield.
Yeah.
Maybe do something like that. That'd be intriguing.
Exactly. That's not a bad strategy. So that 7th round went J.K. Dobbins, Brian Robinson, Stephon Diggs, Jerry Jeudy, Travis Etienne, Zay Flowers, Khalil Shakir, T.J. Hawkinson, Deebo Samuel, Rome Odunze, Ricky Pearsall, Chris Godwin. I don't think we've talked about Deebo Samuel yet on one of these streams. Do you have any positive thoughts on him? Do you think this move to Washington is going to be a good one for him, and he maybe looks like the Deebo of old?
So you don't want me to body shame Deebo Samuel? Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're saying? You're saying don't talk about fat Deebo, just talk about Deebo in general? Situationally, I think it's great. I really do, because I think that you can get super creative with that offense. Having a mobile QB like Jaden Daniels, you can run some jet sweeps and some, interesting fake reverses and have Daniels take off one way while Deebo's taking off another way. He's one of those ideal yards after the catch, low A dot kind of receivers, and get the ball into his hands and let him, kind of bruise his way through. So, maybe that's why he bulked up a little bit, because he's like, I'm going to be doing all this, like, yards after the catch stuff, and I'm going to end up like taking some bigger hits and some, trying to break bigger tackles. So maybe that's what it is. I just took him in the SiriusXM host draft last night, and I felt perfectly fine doing it. I think because you're not relying on him to be one of your number one guys, right? This is 2 wide receivers. And,
2 wide receivers, 2 flex.
So you've got Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith, right? And Jalen Waddle and Deebo's now your 4th guy. So I think it's definitely worth the shot to do it. I'll bet you Deebo outproduces Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that as well, especially if they get him involved running the ball like he did in San Francisco. It's always a added bonus for him. Oh, so rookie receivers, you have Ted McMillan, and I feel like it's a bunch of other guys after him. If you're looking at this rookie receiver class, who are some of your, if any, targets after? It seems like you're not super high on Ted McMillan for his price tag. So are there any targets for you at that rookie receiver spot? It seems like every year there's some rookie receivers that have huge seasons. Do you like any, of the guys after Ted McMillan?
Yeah, I do actually, and listen, I don't dislike Ted McMillan. I just think that when you're drafting him, you're basically drafting him there at the first pick of the fifth round. You're drafting him almost at his ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just at least for his first year. Maybe he does develop into a guy that you're going to want to take in the second round, maybe. But for the time being, right now, I think the fifth is still a little bit high. I'm intrigued by Emeka Egbuka now that I'm hearing that Chris Godwin might miss some time early.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at that. But other like rookie wide receivers that I'm looking at, I mean, I've gotten a share of Matthew Golden. I do like Kyle Williams for the New England Patriots. I do
Okay.
think because Kyle Williams, what he does well. He serves as a great complement on the other side of the field from Stephon Diggs. Yet if Stephon Diggs is struggling with his knee recovery, Kyle Williams is the type of guy who you'll put into the X receiver position and he'll be able to hold it himself. Like you can't do that with Demario Douglas or Jalen Polk, but you can do that with Kyle Williams. So I think he's got some really nice late value. You don't want to like reach too much for him or anything like that, but I think he's definitely got somebody, a youngster who's got some really good potential.
Yeah, for sure, Howard. So we're getting near the end of the stream here. We like to do this at this point of every one of these and pick maybe our favorite team to this point. I know not every team has an entire starting lineup, but many of them do, and we got kind of an idea. So let's look at these rosters and come away with who we like, Howard. You have anybody that you're looking at right now that stands out?
Yeah, you know what? All right. So obviously, I've been talking about Buddha's bag the entire time, and I love what he's doing right here. Jawan Jennings and Cooper Kupp added to that mix. I love that team. I really love that team. Toucan 30, picking eighth overall. Malik Neighbors, Derrick Henry. I love Chuba Hubbard. I'm a big fan of Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm a big fan of Jalen Hurts. I think he throws a little bit more. Plus, gets all those tush-push touchdowns for at least one more season. David Montgomery is a rock-solid third running back. Tank Bigsby, he just added to the fray. So, and the fact that you're only starting two wide receivers, I don't hate the Jordan Addison pick there in the eighth round. He's going to miss the first three games, but, he's definitely going to be a solid addition, for specific matchups. And then Hawkinson, rock-solid tight end. Toucan 30, I like that team a lot.
It's interesting to me. A lot of these builds, a couple of these teams went really running back heavy, but then others took maybe one dependable and then some question marks, and they're hoping they hit. So that kind of clouds things a little bit for me, but I can see the strategy in it all, and I can see why they did that. There's a lot of solid teams. I kind of like the tickets please team a little bit. Saquon and Jonathan Taylor is his two running backs. That's unbelievable. And then Brock Bowers is his tight end. We know he's the number one option out there. Some question marks at a number one receiver, but I think he has some options that he can put out there that will produce. I mean, something's got to give if you take two running backs like that and a tight end. Then he got Mahomes really late, who I think is going to have a huge season. So I might say the tickets please team's my top pick for this draft right now.
Yeah, the only player that I'm like a little iffy on his team is Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
But when you know that you got these wagons in Barkley and Taylor, I love the trio. I love all four wide receivers, right? DJ Moore, solid. Jameson Williams has developed into something where he could actually have better numbers than Amon-Ra St. Brown this season.
Yeah, you hear about his expanded route tree and, being more than just a deep threat. That's really encouraging to me for sure. He's a super talented guy, that Jameson Williams.
Liam Cohen also said that he wants Travis Hunter to play 80% of the snap shares on offense too.
I
So,
saw that. Yeah.
I mean, who hates that? And then Michael Pittman, yeah, I don't love Anthony Richardson being the guy under center, but Pittman's still a number one, and you got him in round 9.
Yeah. A fourth receiver in round 9 who caught 80 passes last year in a down season. So I'm all for that. I
Yeah.
like that. I have a lot of shares of Pittman. Well, Howard, this has been fun as always. It just flies by every time we do one of these live streams. It goes by super quick, but it's always a lot of fun. And we're going to continue to do them until the start of the season. So go sign up right now. You can sign up for next week's draft next Wednesday. You can do it right now. It's on our pages, our draft rooms, sign up spot. So just go do it now. And then you can hear Howard and I talk about the draft. Always a lot of fun. Appreciate it, Howard.
Thank you so much again for having me, and thank you for all the kind words in the chat. Really appreciate the. I get. It's so funny. The team names in the Beat Bender League. I mean, they're so mean, right? It's like bend her, bend his dick, bend this, bend that, and it's like everybody's like making fun of me, right? And I come here in the chat, and everybody's like, supportive and how's Alaska, and great to see you, like kind of thing. So. I need more of this niceness in the Beat Bender leagues, please. Join those drafts with me and be nice.
Yeah, be nice to Howard. Come on, guys. All right. All right. Thanks again, Howard. Thanks to everybody out there for watching. Really appreciate it. Good luck on all your upcoming drafts. Go to RTSports.com and get in a draft today. This has been Jeff Paur for RealTime Fantasy Sports.